right, so shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I'm gonna start off by saying Barakatham, Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai. I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Kakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. And shout out to the hopeful elect, starting with 144,000. Shalom. All right, so Lord willing, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, I want to go into this lesson. We'll title it No Longer Tossed To and Fro, right? Because when you go to Isaiah 41 and 49 and 21, right, it reads, it says, then shalt thou say in thine heart, who has begotten, when you go to that word heart, meaning mind, but it says, who have begotten me these, right? Saying I have lost my children, talking about Israelites, because I continue to read, it says, who have lost my children and am desolate and captive and moving to and fro, because we have been scattered. We have been scattered from our homeland, and our homeland has, many people has been through our homeland, from the Muslims through the Crusaders, the Greeks, the Romans, the Babylonians, the Persians. Our homeland has been tossed to and fro, and such as we. That's why it says, seeing I have lost my children and am desolate and a captive, right? Because we've been led into captivity amongst many nations. A lot of these nations, a majority of nations, led a hand in leading us to captivity. It says, who have brought up these, talking about the Israelites, because in all this sense, our people have been led to a strange way. We have lost our way, we have lost our land, we have lost our heritage. He says, behold, I was left alone. These, referring to the Israelites, where had they been, right? That's a little notes I read, right? So eventually the nation of Israel pushed out the land of Israel, but the first one that went was the northern kingdom, and all the nations had that land, talking about our land, right? And all the nations had a hand in putting the Israelites in captivity, right? And I go to the Blue Letter Bible. I got it put up already. We'll read in NLT, right? It says, then you will think to yourself, right? Because once again, that heart goes into mind. Who has given me all these descendants? For most of my children were killed, and the rest were carried away into exile, right? That's what happened to our nation. It says, I was left here all alone. Where did all these people come from? Who bore these children? Who raised them for me, right? Because our nation have been amongst our land, our nation have been amongst so many other nations, so many other people. We have become a strange plant. We have become degenerate until Yahweh Shai. Our people has been lost. Our people has been carried away captive, tossed to and fro. Let's go ahead and grab that. Right, Ephesians chapter 4. Right, Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 14 says that we hence, right? He says that we hence be no more children tossed to and fro and carried, right? Because we have been carried away into captivity. And every time we went into captivity, guess what? We went into Babylonian captivity, people falling away to Babylonians. When the Greeks, the Hellenist period. The Romans have people falling away to the Romans. Christianity, all that things that's it. Our people been tossed to and fro, it says, and carried about with every wind of doctrine by the sleight of men and cunning craftiness, whereby they lie and wait to deceive. And that's what's been going on. Our people have been deceived and caught up, right? We have been deceived and caught up in these other nations and caught up in these other ways that our people have been tossed to and fro, right? That's why, I quoted, matter of fact, we'll just stay in the Blue Letter Bible in a sense, right? I quoted it, but we'll grab it, Jeremiah, Slakia, book of Jeremiah, chapter 2, right? Starting at verse 20, right? And it reads, and it says, for old time have broken thy yoke and burst thy bands, and thou says, I will not transgress. Right? Meaning, when we was in captivity, we call upon the name Yahweh Shai, he delivers. We'll be like, Yahweh Shai, please deliver us. We won't do this no more. Deliver us from this captivity. We'll return back. We'll follow your ways. It says, when upon every high hill and under every green tree, thou wanderest playing the harlot. And that's what Jake did. Being tossed to and fro, playing the harlot amongst these other nations. But also being in captivity. And every time we're in captivity, what they say we was cast amongst the Greeks? Let's go make a covenant with the heathen. Right? Verse 21 is the point. It says, yet I planted thee a noble vine, wholly a right seed. How art thou then turned into the degenerate plant of a strange vine to me? That's what happened to our people. We fell into that kindness, craftiness, right? We was in that Ephesians. Let me go back to the Ephesians. We fell into that, right? It says, that we henceforth be no more children tossed to and fro and carried about with every wind of doctrine by the sleight of men and cunning craftiness, whereby they lie and wait to deceive, right? Because Jake have been carried away Jake have been caught up in the cunning and craftiness, they've been easy to see, and that's what made us into a strange vine until Yahweh Shah. Because we go amongst these captivity nations, they don't know how to hang on and keep faith. They don't know how to fight. So this deceiving one, this craftiness has got Jake into a degenerate plant, right? It says, "For thou wash thee with natri and take thee much soap, yet thy iniquity is marked before me," said the Lord Yahweh, because nothing can make us clean except, Yahweh Shah. If we're going to be made perfect in the kingdom. What do we write in NLT? Really, I start verse 20 in NLT. He said, "Long ago I broke the yoke that oppressed you and tore away the chains of your slavery. But you still said, I will not serve you." That's how Jake moved. Call upon the name of Yahweh Shah. As soon as we get delivered, then guess what? Going right back and doing the same thing. That's what led us into these captivities. Jake go back and do the same thing over and over. It says, "On every hill and under every green tree, you have prostituted yourselves by bowing down to idols," right? Tossed to and fro, craftiness, being led to deceit, right? From different doctors, different ways, serving these different idols, right? You got Jake who out here Muslim, Christianity, right? You got some Jake down there atheist. These people are confused. It says, "But I was the one who planted you, choosing a vine of the purest stock, the very best. How did you grow into a corrupt wild vine?" That's why he said, "What more can I do to my vineyard?" Right? What more can I do to my vineyard? Because we're supposed to be in that perfect vine, that noble vine, right? The scripture say the things that are pleasing to the Most High are made known unto us. We're supposed to be that holy right seed. We're supposed to be the perfection of the earth, beauty of the earth. We fell off, right? That's what led us being tossed to and fro to these captivities, right? That's what led, our people, beginning with the northern kingdom, them going off, right? Most High sending, the Syrians and what's his name, Solomon saw. He brought all the people in the land from Hava, all the people into the land. The Syrians it was a harsh captivity. So the northern kingdom packed up. 2nd Esdras 13, he came over here to Ashereth, right? Which was called America, and they know this was. Ashereth was referring to America because the northern kingdom's over here first. Verse 22, it says, "No amount of soap or lye can make you clean. I still see the same stain of your guilt. As the sovereign Lord Yahweh has spoken." That's why Yahweh had to come purify us. That's why we're going to be made white in the kingdom, meaning purified. We're going to be made perfect in the kingdom. Yahweh came and, brought us back, right? But that leads me to the point where I'm going to, no more toss to and fro, because now we no more toss to and fro because the doctrine of Yahweh is back upon us, right? The sound doctrine, healthy doctrine, right? I might be only in the Apocrypha. Bear with me. Baruch chapter 2. Yep, verse 30. It says, "For I knew that they would not hear me, because it is a stiff-necked people. But in the land of their captives, they shall remember themselves." So in the land of their captives, they shall remember themselves, right? And excuse my daughter in the background. I hope she don't wake up. But it said, "In the land of their captives, they shall remember themselves," right? And that's what we're doing. We're waking up in the land of our captivity. Because when you understand it, we're at the end of our captivity. We soon to be delivered. The next thing for us to live, we don't live out our punishment. We don't went through our punishment, right? In Lamentations 4 and verse 22. And I like what it says in the NLT, right? It says, "Oh, beautiful Jerusalem, your punishment will end soon," right? It says, "You will soon return from exile, but Edom, your punishment just beginning. Soon your many sins will be exposed." And that's what it is, right? That's what it is. They're being exposed. They're being exposed for what they've done. But right? So they're being exposed. They're being exposed for all the things they've done. But for Jake, for our people, our punishment will end because we understand what led us here. We understand what got us caught up in his way. We understand what got us sent over here into captivity. I read right here in the KJV, verse 22 says, "The punishment of thy iniquity is accomplished," because we understand, once again, we understand what led us to this point. We understand why we're in captivity. We understand why we're under the curses, right? So now we soon to be led back into our land. We soon to be delivered, soon to receive salvation. The kingdom will be restored back into Israel, right? Right here, I continue to read verse 20 from the KJV. It says, "O daughter of Zion, he will no more carry thee away to captivity." So we'll be no more tossed to and fro. Once we get into the kingdom of Yahweh Shah, we're going to rule forever. This kingdom is going to last forever. The scripture comes from Daniel chapter 2, verse 44, and Revelation, Daniel chapter 7, right? We'll be long talks to and fro, man. We're going to be delivered, right? Everybody gonna worship everybody gonna worship them. Everybody gonna worship and follow the laws, commandments of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah. It's gonna be instituted to the whole world, instituted to the whole earth. No, ain't nothing gonna come against it. Ain't nothing gonna come against it. Ain't nobody gonna try to stand up against it, right? Everybody gonna bow down to the laws, commandments of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah, right? So there ain't gonna be no more doctrine. Ain't gonna be no more captivity for our nation, for our people. Ain't gonna be no more false doctrine and things that going around. The 100% truth will be instituted into the Israelites, into their hearts and minds. We're gonna be a spiritual body. We're gonna be made perfect. But for so long, we have been caught up amongst the other nations. A lot of Jake has went into a Gentile state of mind. Let's grab that First Corinthians 12, verse 2. It says, "Ye know that you were Gentiles carried into these dumb idols, even as you were led." And that's what happened to a lot of our people. Our people was playing the harlot. People been led away Gentiles. We were led away captive to these other nations, right? Because why? For our iniquity, for our sins. But now we're going to be delivered from. We're going to be no longer led into the captivity. And that's beginning with the elect. Alone, Lord willing. Just because I know she in there probably whining through the spirit. On the grab, Isaiah 10. Is it? I think it's Isaiah 1. Bear with me. That might be Isaiah 10. Might be Isaiah 10. Bear with me. What is it, Isaiah? I think is it 9? Let's see. GOMOR. Hey. Let's see. Yeah, Isaiah 1:9. Right? So this right here, Isaiah 1:9, right? It says, "Except the Lord Yahweh of hosts had left unto us a very small remnant." And what's we understand, right? It says we should have been at Sodom, we should have been like unto Gomorrah. You kind, because you gotta understand, the Most High had that small remnant, the Most High had that chosen elect. Our nation would have been destroyed. Because these are the ones beginning with the elect. These are the ones who received that sound doctrine to establish the stability of our nation. See, you got a lot of you Jake, they're still being tossed to and fro. They're still being found following any and every doctrine. But beginning with the elect, they're the ones who return it back and receive knowledge, understanding, Yahweh Shah, to abide in the truth, to abide in the works, to abide in that sound doctrine. That's why they're going to receive first domain. They're the ones who say the standard and the stability of Yahweh Shah is truth. It says, hear the word of the Lord Yahweh, ye rulers of Sodom, give ye ears to the law of our power, give you people of Gomorrah. That's what Jake is. They're like unto Sodom and Gomorrah, man. They're wicked, They're wicked, right? Because they're caught up and tossed to and fro amongst all these other doctrines, all these other ways, right? And Lord willing, in the kingdom, that's why we're going to be made perfect. That's why it says, you no longer toss to and fro. I tell you, no longer toss to and fro, beginning with the elect, because those are the ones who receive this knowledge, understanding, and standing firm in the sound doctrine of Yahweh Shah. Those are the ones who, receive His word and see His truth and God the way of the other nations. See, a lot of these Jake are still in that Hellenist mindset. A lot of these Jake are still lost. A lot of these Jake are still wicked. 2/3 of our nation are still wicked, but the elect, they have returned back to Yahweh Shah. They're no longer caught up in these sound doctrine, these ways, So, Lord willing, I'm gonna title this part 1, right? And I want to go into Lord willing, I want to go into a little history. And part 2, we're going to the Great Diaspora, 6680, AD, and also we're going to the history of First Kings and Second Ezra, of the Northern Kingdom and the Southern Kingdom being scattered, over, which was a good history in our nation, was going into how we lost our land, which was, things that such, right? That us being tossed to and fro, right? So with that being said, Lord willing, right? Hope the lesson was edifying His altar. All right, and I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Bashem, Yahweh Shai, Bashem, Kakadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. And shout out to the Hope for Elect, starting with the 144,000. Shalom.